The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Friday, January 12th, Saturday, January 13th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond, and this is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, live from the Great White North and the Caribou region on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia. Right here, station at SOR headquarters, as you can see behind me on Periscope. We are 150,000 strong nightly on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, on the United Public Radio Network 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We are also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. You can also check us out on Periscope. Hi, people. All you got to do is go on to Periscope, type in Spaced Out Radio in the search. We're right there. You can also follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like. Spaced Out Radio Show on Instagram. Follow me at Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And don't forget, we can also be downloaded on iTunes. Make sure you give us a review, a subscription. We would appreciate that. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. And don't forget, we are raising money right now for a brand new Spaced Out Radio studio, so we could use your help. Go to GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. Now, if you head to our website, you could enter the Spaced Out Radio store, pick up a nice t-shirt like this one that I am wearing if you see it on camera, read the encounter online, dealing with everything paranormal, strange, and odd. My latest blog there as well. You can also watch great videos from Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV, and so much more. Have you ever lived in a haunted house? If so, what was the experience like for you, or maybe your family members? Tonight we talk with the Eberhardt family. The patriarch, Lance, will be around for the entire show, and popping in will be his wife, Jennifer, as well, maybe his daughter, Heidi. So how would you feel during those hauntings that you were having if your family suffered all of a sudden from physical conditions? Stress, emotional illness, sleeplessness, depression, unconsciousness, being tormented by an invisible presence, that is. There are 15 beautiful acres of farmland that, like many other properties in the area, have possible historic ties to the Civil War era, is extremely, extremely active. And after their nightmarish experience, the Eberhardts have no problem saying their place is haunted. Lance Eberhardt, welcome to Spaced Out Radio for the first time. Great to have you on the air with us for the next 3 hours. How are you?
Doing very well, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So tell me about your story, my friend, because, you know, for a lot of people out here who listen to this show, myself included, we all have these experiences that kind of lead us to this point. It's more than just an interest for many of us. So my question to you is, before you moved to your farm, did you ever have any type of paranormal experiences or even believe in this phenomenon?
You know, I didn't believe in anything that was paranormal. I was raised in a very conservative household. There were some things that happened when I was very young, when I was a child, that after all this experience that we've had here in our house, kind of now all ties in together. It all makes sense. You know, like I said, I was raised in a very conservative household. If I would say something, I saw something, I heard something, it was like, stop making stuff up. That can't happen. You know, so I just got to the point where I just kind of, I just tuned it out. I just, just repressed everything. So it kind of led to me just not believing that something was actually happening where we currently live.
So I guess for a while, because I know when I moved up north here into British Columbia in the middle of nowhere, one day I hope to get a bunch of property as well, because there is something zen and something very special about having a large acreage, no real neighbors around, where you can just spend time on your property, do what you want, how you want it. It's a very big comfort zone. Big responsibility at the same time, but it's a relaxing piece where you can go home and not worry about the neighbors making noise and maybe waking up to deer every morning or something along those lines.
Yeah, absolutely. We moved here from Houston, and we went from just a huge metropolitan city and to out in rural northwest Missouri. And we went from living into a big neighborhood where, you know, your neighbors are right on top of you, and to no neighbors, really. So all of a sudden, you know, here we are where we're living on a little over 15 acres. We have a pond, we have creeks, we have barns. So it was quite an adjustment from going from one type of environment to the next. So we already had the stress of that. But, you know, I loved the idea of living like that and kind of getting back. And we always thought that this would be a better way to raise our children.
And I can understand that. I mean, you know, getting away from people where it's a little bit more peaceful and relaxed and private, it's always a little bit safer for the kids, at least. I'm in full agreement with you. I'm sure you would agree with that as well. I mean, I would sooner have than dodging wild animals than I would have my kids dodging, street thugs or anything like that, or bullies.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was, we go from a town of a metropolitan over 6.5 million people to our closest town here, Kearney, has just about 8,000 people. So quite an adjustment. One of the big adjustments was all of a sudden when we first moved here, everything would close down at 10 o'clock at night. So there was you just couldn't go to the grocery store at 1 o'clock in the morning. So it took some adjustments, and also not just a cultural adjustment, but also an environmental adjustment. We came from the Gulf Coast, and now all of a sudden here we are in the Midwest, and we had no clue really on how to live in a winter environment. I think that first winter we were here, we were burning everything we could get our hands onto, practically, just to try to stay warm.
I've tripled my wood pile in 3 years. I know exactly. My friend, if you saw me right now, I've actually got a big smile, and I'm trying not to snicker here because, I mean, your story is so familiar to mine in regards to why I moved out from, an area where I lived in a town of 50,000, but the entire population of the lower mainland British Columbia, thanks to Vancouver, was about 3.5 million. And to come up to a town where I'm living, where, it's 1,800 people, and realistically, when you say things shut down at 10 o'clock, I'm a little jealous on your part, because around here it's usually 5 o'clock, or maybe if we're lucky, 6. So you're getting some extra hours there that I was wishing we had over here.
Yeah, it's that was a big adjustment, and but living in a small town, it's a benefit, but it's also a curse. It's kind of a double-edged sword. All of a sudden, you pretty much know everybody, or you've seen everyone, or you're familiar with this person, or this person. So it can kind of be, like I said, a double-edged sword. And that was kind of one of the things when we first started experiencing things. It's like, okay, well, we don't want to say anything. This is kind of one of those one-horse town type things, and things can get out, and you don't want to be judged or ridiculed.
Very true enough. Did your family adjust well to the new location, or was there any troubles around that? Because I think we were pretty lucky. Our family adjusted very well to moving to a smaller area, like you, with colder winters, with absolutely everything. It was a culture shock, but, it comes down to whether or not your family can take it, because I think as men, we always have stress on how are our families going to be able to handle things when it comes to big moves or something along those lines.
We have 4 daughters. We have our 2 oldest daughters. They were in 7th and 5th grade when we moved here. So the move up here was a little harder for them because they were leaving friends behind and they were leaving ties behind. Our 2 younger daughters, I think Heidi was 3 at the time we moved here, and Emmy was she had maybe just turned 1. So, the 2 older kids, it was a little bit of an adjustment for them. All of a sudden now they're going to a lot smaller school. Our oldest daughter in particularly, right before we moved, she made the cheerleading squad at the school in Houston. And so she's going from being a very popular middle school or junior high kid to the new kid. So it was a little bit harder on her. But the 2 younger ones, this is all they know. They don't know any different. What's really interesting is I remember, I think it was Heidi. We were at the store, the grocery store, and Heidi was staring at the eggs in the refrigerator compartment. And I go, honey, what's wrong? And she goes, Well, I'm just confused. I mean, do they keep their chickens in the back? Because the time we had chickens, and she couldn't comprehend that eggs were actually sold at the store. You just didn't go out to the chicken coop and get them.
So it was quite an adjustment for absolutely everyone. Now, when we start focusing in on the paranormal, had your wife, Jennifer, ever had any experience in regards to the paranormal? Was this something new to her as well?
It was new. Yeah, it was new to her. She really didn't have any experiences. She was a believer, though. She believed she was much more spiritual and much more connected, I guess, to being open-minded to, okay, there's something here, something's going on. So she was much more open to that than I was. So the two older kids, especially the two older kids, they didn't have a clue. Their idea of a ghost was something that you would see on Halloween, or haunted shows were something that you watched right around Halloween. So they didn't have any clue. But Jennifer was the most open to accepting that, yeah, something must be going on here.
So how long did it take after you moved in? Actually, before we even go there, let's talk about finding the property. You make this move from Houston, Texas, up to Missouri. How did it lead you to head to Missouri and then look for acreage? What was the driving force behind all of this?
Well, it was my job at the time. I was traveling quite a bit. I had come up to Missouri, and I was a point person. I would set up the markets. I would hire the staff, and I would get them all trained, and then I would move on to the next, work adventure. When I came to Missouri to open up this market, I was still tying up loose ends in Wisconsin and Idaho and in Utah. So I was flying in and out of either Kansas City or St. Louis. When I got done with setting up Missouri, my boss said, we really have discovered that you being in the center of the country makes a lot of sense. You can get to anywhere you need to go very quickly. So would you like to move? And I said, yeah, I think I would, but let me check with my wife. And when I called Jennifer and I said, hey, they would like for us to move. And they'll pay for 100% of it. And she goes, yeah, I'm ready to move. And because this was right around the time there was another hurricane bearing down on the Houston area. So she was anxious. She jumped on the opportunity to move. And I kind of tasked her with finding a place to live. And I told my only requirement was, okay, it's got to be somewhere in Missouri, and they don't care where I live, just as long as I'm close to an airport. And she actually chose the Kansas City area for a couple of reasons. She just had a feeling that this was a nice area, and she found this place and it had been on the market for about almost a year, had sat vacant for a year. She and the girls went and looked at it. They called me and says, I really liked it. We're going to send you some pictures of it. So I looked at it and looked at the pictures, and I said, fine, you know what? If that's what you want, this sounds great. This sounds like everything that we would want. Small town, acreage, old farmhouse, barn, horse stalls, everything you could possibly want. I think this would be perfect. So I actually agreed to buy this place sight unseen. I had only looked at pictures and was going by what Jennifer was telling me about the property. So I didn't even see the place. My first time to see the house and to even walk through it was after we had already closed on the loan.
So what was it like walking in there? Please take some time to describe your house while our audience will probably never get there. So your property, your house, is it kind of back or built back into the property, or is it right up front? You got a giant backyard of 15 acres. Take the time to describe it to us.
Sure. The house sits on an initial 5 acres, and it sits up by the road, and we are just west of Kearney. The house was built, I think, in 1968, and we're actually the third owners of the house. Nothing really fancy about the house. It's a single-story brick home, basement, old house. Bedrooms are really small. They had taken, the second owners had done some remodeling, and they added a small little portion on the back part of the house, and they also converted the garage to a living room. So, but even doing all that, the house is still, I think it's right around 1,600 square feet. So it's still not a big house. They also, when they remodeled the garage and made it the living room, they added a detached garage, which is like a garage and a workshop. And then they also built a barn. The barn has horse stalls in it. It was horse ready. So all of these 3 buildings sit relatively close together. So it's maybe 50 feet from the house to the barn and maybe 15 feet from the house to the garage. Back behind our property, behind the house, is a pond that was dug out and done by the original owner of the house. And next to the pond is a very small barn. It's an original structure from the house. And, that's where we would keep chickens, and it's just really small, almost the size of you see them today, they call them the tiny houses. So all wood structure, very old looking, kind of like I like to describe it. If you take a black and white picture of it, it looks like it's a set of a Western movie. And then beyond that is another probably about a little over another 10 acres that has a flat pasture that, we can grow hay on. It's got a wooded area. It's got a creek running through it. It's a beautiful property. So, but like I said, the first time I'd ever seen it, first time I'd ever walked through the house, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I got myself into? The house has a boiler system for the heat. So I had even no clue what that was. So it was kind of a shock, to come into, because in Houston, we lived in a 3,500 square foot house. And here we are moving into this really tiny, tiny house. And in order for all of our kids to have their own bedrooms, the 2 younger ones shared a bedroom, but the 2 older girls, we let them have the other bedrooms, because the house only has 3 bedrooms. So our bedroom was in kind of an open area that we had planned on converting to a bedroom. But, we never got around to that. And the 2 older girls have now moved out. So now we have one of their bedrooms. So it was pretty cramped, when you start thinking there's 6 people living in this house.
I can see that. What made you guys decide to all of a sudden become farmers, ranchers, or whatever you want to call it? Was it just a lifelong dream, or was it something that you just were tired of the subdivision type life?
Well, I grew up out in West Texas, or really all over Texas, but I have family in West Texas. So every summer I would have to go out and work on the ranch. And so I grew up around horses. I was with horses. I was involved in horses. So, it was kind of one of these things, one of those things I kind of wanted to prove Thomas Wolfe wrong, that you could go home again, so kind of getting back to a simpler type of thing, and it was going to give us an opportunity to, for me to kind of pass on to my kids. And it was also going to allow my wife to expand her business, because she's a dog breeder. So you can't be a dog breeder in a subdivision. So it gave us enough land and enough facilities to where she could do what she wanted and I could do what I wanted. And we could kind of start passing that down to our kids.
Right, and that's cool. I mean, because it is a different type of life. I think even though it's a harder working life because of the size of the property, it is different. It's more fresh air. It's more room to run around. Kids not so much playing video games as they are helping out around the farm because there's always some sort of chore to do. Now, when you found this place, were you like 99% of the people out there? You didn't ask if it was haunted or anything like that?
No, you know what? Never came up. I never even thought of that. That never even had crossed my mind. One of the things that I was really excited about was I'm a history buff. So when I started researching and, going online and trying to figure out about this town where I was about to move to, all of a sudden I go, oh my gosh, this place has a lot of rich American Western history. Kearney is the birth and burial place of the outlaw Jesse James. A lot of people came through this area. So some of them good, some of them not so good. There's this section of Missouri is considered Little Dixie. So I was really intrigued by just the amount of Western history here and the ties that it all had to the Civil War and, the American West, so just so many great things that I thought, oh, this is just great. This would be a perfect place for me.
How did the kids adjust? Were they okay with everything? And did they settle into school well?
It took our oldest daughter. She struggled a little bit, because she was coming. Like I said, she was very popular in her school. She had just made cheerleader, so she was really excited about that. So now all of a sudden, here she is, where she's the new kid on the block. So it took some adjustment for her, and also going from a very warm environment where you could go outside every single day if you wanted to, to one where, okay, well, you really got to bundle up today. The wind chill is -20. And, oh, by the way, there's a foot of snow on the ground. So good luck, so that took some adjustment. So it was harder on our oldest daughter, London, than it was on the other ones. But eventually, she kind of started to come around. And a lot of the things that when they started happening and things started experiencing, I kind of chalked it up to, they're just not adjusting well. It just takes some time. They'll get used to living here. They'll make friends, everything a rational parent would think to say.
So at what point when you moved into the property did things start happening? When did you guys start noticing?
Well, everything started happening relatively quickly. Not from my realization, but our oldest daughter, she was the one that really, I guess, kind of was the first person who started experiencing things. She started complaining about having nightmares. She couldn't sleep. She didn't feel well. She kept saying she heard voices. And there was one evening she came running out of her room wearing nothing but a bath towel, screaming because she said when she went into her room, she saw a lady sitting on her bed. And I go in there and I don't see anybody, obviously. And so things initially started happening with her. She started not sleeping. She started to become a little bit withdrawn. So I just start dismissing this as saying that, okay, well, she can't adjust. She's having a hard time adjusting to this. And so I would say that started happening probably about 3 months after we moved into the house. And naturally, like I said, I just dismissed them as like, well, it's just a new environment, new schools, new friends, so it's just going to take some time. So.
At what point, though, did you start believing your daughter that these experiences were happening?
I didn't start believing until something happened to me. And I dismissed every single thing that was going on. Because one of the things that my daughter had mentioned, London had mentioned, is that we came home, my wife and I came home from somewhere, I can't remember where, and she was hysterical. She said that somebody was banging on the windows saying and yelling, "Let us in, let us in, let us in." And she was frantic. But even at that point, I still didn't believe. My wife was saying, "I think something's going on here." And naturally, I just say, "Nothing's going on here. There's no such thing as ghosts. There is no such thing as haunted houses. That's all in the movies." But it took something to actually happen to me before I was actually convinced that, okay, something's not right.
Now, were your whole family, besides you, having experience at this time?
Yeah, everyone was starting to complain about, just little things like, well, I know I closed my door. My door was closed. And I said, well, you must have forgot it. Or a door would slam. And I would say, well, probably just a wind. Did you have the window open? This house is old. It's drafty. So everybody was coming, and everyone was coming to me and saying, this happened, this happened, this happened. And I would just kind of dismiss them. And it was all like small little stuff, with the exception of London. London was saying, I'm hearing people. This lady woke me up from when I was sleeping. She was stroking my hair. I was terrified. So I just said, look, come on. This place is not haunted. So stop telling me it's haunted, because I don't believe in it.
That's tough for a child to hear from the parents, and we kind of went through that, my ex-wife and I, with our little girl. We actually knew our side of the house was haunted. We lived in a duplex. Our best friends went on one side and we were on the other. Their side, nothing ever happened. With our side, I mean, it was almost nightly. So I know what you're going through on this personally. And my little girl, who will be 19 on, next Wednesday, she, at about 1.5 years, 2 years old, started seeing things in her room. And we paid really no attention to it, just your imagination, much like you. And what happened with her was we literally, right before bedtime, we always played the cleanup game. So we would go into the room, we'd do the cleanup and, to try and establish a good, clean room. And, then we'd tuck our daughter into bed, and off to bed she would go. But we'd wake up in the morning at like 7:30 to start getting ready for work and get her up and her day going, for preschool and everything. And her room would be destroyed. Toys everywhere. Coloring books ripped apart and everything. And we'd be like, what did you do? And she would be like, it wasn't me. And it wasn't until we heard, when the kids were gone one time, when we heard the pitter-patter of little feet come out of her bedroom after her squeaky door opened, running down the hallway to our bed, where my ex-wife and I, because money was tight, we couldn't afford a good bed, so we had a real squeaky type bed. And the little ghost upstairs was actually using our bed like a trampoline. So it wasn't until then when we were like, wow, I guess she was right. And it's really hard to believe children in that type of situation, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because, especially like I said, I was raised very conservatively. And, it's really, kids, so you kind of think, well, your imagination's getting the best of you, those type of things. You hear something and you think the worst. Your mind just starts racing. So just relax. Your mind is just playing tricks on you. So, but we had a similar thing like what you mentioned that happened to our daughter Chloe in her bedroom. One night, I hear this crashing come down, like somebody's just throwing stuff on the floor. I go into her room. She's sitting there. She's sitting there on her bed. She's kind of like curled up. She's scared. And I said, what? And all these books and all these shoes and everything that was in her closet, now all of a sudden that was on a shelf, is now on the floor. And I'm like, what happened? What did you do? She goes, Dad, I was just sitting here. I was just sitting here listening to music, and all of a sudden all this stuff just starts flying off of the shelves. And I'm like, come on, really? So it's just kind of, I guess I was raised by a military father, so there's always got to, in his world, there was always a logical explanation for something. So I was just kind of going by how I was raised.
How did this make the kids feel when you and your wife were not believing them at the time?
Well, my wife, she was starting to believe. She, like I said, she was more open-minded than what I was. So it kind of, it created a lot of friction between myself, my wife, and the two older kids. So there was a lot of like, how can you not believe me? I'm not lying to you. And I said, come on. So there was a lot of friction. And, and it was mostly, now hindsight always 2020. And you look back at something, I said, well, I was the one that was causing that friction because I was choosing not to believe. And if I would have believed, I could have reacted a lot faster. I wouldn't have let this thing just kind of just manifest, I guess is the best word I could use.
When you started figuring out that there was something going on, is that when the experience is really enhanced?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There was no question that what happened to me, I was 100% convinced that, okay, they're right, I'm wrong, something's here, and this is not right. So, and what had happened was I officed out of the house, and I have a little office in our basement. And like I said, this is an older house, so the basement is almost like a dungeon. And everyone was out of the house. They were gone shopping or doing something. I can't remember what. But I was working late down in the basement in my office. And it was winter. It was dark. The basement was dark. I only had the light on and where my desk was. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I hear my printer behind me just start spitting out paper. I don't really think anything of it. I just kind of turned around and said, I wonder what's going on here. So I went to turn it off. Turned it off. Paper still kept coming out. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, something must be caught in the queue. It's just got to finish up. But it kept spitting out paper. And then finally, when it got done with all the paper, it kept trying to print out more paper. So I said, oh, something must be happening. I don't know what's going on here. So just a malfunction. So I went over to the plug to unplug it. And as I bent down to unplug it and I unplugged it, it still kept going. I'm like, this is crazy. And I just kind of thought, well, maybe there's some kind of auxiliary battery or something in it. And as soon as I was going to walk back over to it, there was this woman, like just a blood-curdling scream. Like she was standing right behind me. And I was terrified. I hauled ass. I got out of that basement so fast. And I went outside, and I sat there outside in the cold wearing shorts and a T-shirt, barefooted until Jennifer and the girls got home. So that was my aha moment. That was the slap in the face that convinced me something's here, because it was a terrifying scream. I would never forget it.
How did your perspective change in the paranormal? Obviously, like, did you call a family meeting or anything like that in order to discuss everything? You know, because obviously, you know, there's things happening. You don't know what's going on. And obviously, as a parent, you're now going to want to hear every story that's out there that your family has with some sort of truth.
Yeah, all of a sudden I'm starting to tie in all the loose ends, and all of a sudden everything is starting to add up. Everything is starting to make sense, and the kids started to say, "Well, yeah, this is what I'm hearing too. This is what I'm seeing." And so, and then after that experience for me, all of a sudden, it was like floodgates opened up. There was stuff happening all the time. Doors would open, close, slam. There was one time, it was, I think Emmy was maybe 5 years old at the time. She's our youngest daughter. She comes downstairs one morning, she comes downstairs to the basement, and she goes, "Daddy, the cabinets are open." And I said, "Oh, okay, I probably just left it open." So she goes, "No, the cabinets are open." And I said, "Okay, well, what are you talking about?" So I go upstairs, no cabinets in the kitchen are open. And she was insistent. She goes, "This was open, this was open, this was open, this was open." And I said, "Well, honey, they're not open now. So, maybe, I don't know, maybe you're just imagining something. I don't know, but everything seems fine." And she wasn't scared. She was more, I guess, intrigued by it. She was more inquisitive about it. And as I'm walking back downstairs to my office, she's following me and she's talking. She goes, "But Daddy, all of them were open. I don't understand how all of them could be open." And she's following me all the way down to my office, just nonstop telling me they were all open. Every single one was open. And I go, "Okay, I believe you, honey, but they're not open now. So we're cool." So at that time I realized, I forgot my coffee. So I turned right back around and we go back upstairs. And all of a sudden, when we come back upstairs in the kitchen, all the cabinets are open. We weren't even gone a minute, maybe. All the cabinets were open. All the drawers are open. The refrigerator, microwave, stove, or the oven door, everything was open. And I just stood there. And I was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. And Emmy was so funny. It was nice that she was so young, because to her, it was kind of a normal activity. And she was going, "See, Daddy, I told you that was open, that was open, that was open, that was open." And they were all open. And it was kind of one of those like, oh my gosh. So how do you explain that? And
well, you could have explained it by asking the ghost first and foremost to make you some dinner if they're going to open up all the cupboards in the house.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Make me some wings, please.
Listening to you, I have to tell you, I have a haunted yard. I have about 0.56 of an acre here in British Columbia. And I have a haunted yard, and I have a ghost in my yard, and through a psychic medium, we've been able to determine that this ghost's name is Richard, but he goes by Rick. And him and I actually made a deal through this psychic. And I feel so fortunate now, because my deal with him, I asked him if he wanted to cross over, and he said no, he likes the property. I said, "Okay, but you got to do me a favor." And he's like, "What's that?" And I said, "You have to protect my little guy. I don't want any bears and I don't want any cougars in my yard. And be damned if I've had any in the 3 years that I've lived here."
Wow, that's great.
I mean, I'm a little embarrassed to say that right now, because I feel like I'm almost rubbing it in. But I mean, so getting back to the seriousness of your story, I mean, at what point did you try and figure out how to handle all of this? Because obviously the experiences are getting more and more. They're getting a little bit more emphatic, shall we say. How did you deal with that?
I was really struggling with it. I mean, I was all of a sudden all of a sudden I wasn't sleeping. I was anxious all the time. I felt like I was on edge because after I heard the scream, I started hearing a woman's voice, and it was kind of one of these voices where it was kind of in my head, but it was like she was standing right in front of me talking. And I literally thought I was losing my mind. And she was crazy, for lack of a better word. She was just rambling nonstop. And I slowly just kind of learned through I guess trying to relax or just trying to figure out a way to kind of tune her out. And that's kind of what I started to do. But I was just so on the edge. I was just kind of one of these things where, all of a sudden I'm looking over my shoulder all the time. And all of a sudden, every single day, something new is happening. I would go down into the basement just to get something or go down to work. And as I would go down through the final door at the stairwell, that door would slam shut. And I could not for the life of me open that door back up. Even if I'm pulling on it and Jennifer was pushing on it, we could not get that door to open. I mean, even if we got it open just a pinch, it would just slam back shut. So many crazy things were just happening, and it just kind of put me on edge. And it started to make me question my sanity.
How was your wife reacting to all of this? What was Jennifer's reaction?
Oh, she was just nonstop. She goes, "We got a problem." She goes, "We got a big problem. There's something here. I don't know what it is, but we're all experiencing stuff. We're all hearing stuff. Things are happening." And she goes, "Things are starting to happen to you. Something's not right." And things were getting really a lot worse with London as well. She was constantly complaining about somebody being in her room and hearing somebody talking to her. So she was kind of Jennifer was the person that really kind of pushed, was like, we got to start getting some kind of help.
Did you know that there were so many paranormal groups out there and so many people dealing with the paranormal, or were you into paranormal television at that time? Like, how did you find out about trying to seek help from a paranormal investigation crew?
We had no idea that there was so many paranormal teams out there. We knew nothing about the paranormal. So we started to go online and do research, and kind of one of those things where, okay, fine, we'll just go online. There'll be a website. It'll tell us what to do and everything will go away. But there's just so much information out there on the internet, and one site will contradict the other site. So, and this was about the time that, the paranormal television shows were really coming out. So we decided to go, okay, fine, let's maybe watch one of these shows. And maybe our experience will be similar to something that we see on TV. Then we can figure out how to get rid of this thing. Because the last thing we wanted to do was to go public with what was happening at our house. Because like I said, this is a small town. So we didn't want to be judged or ridiculed or, those whispers behind the back. Oh, that's the Eberhardt family. They're crazy. So, it was kind of like we were trying to heal ourselves, and we were doing just a piss poor job of it because we had no clue. And like I said, every site was contradicting themselves. We were watching the paranormal shows, and they initially they helped. We were kind of thinking, okay, all right, now we see other people are having these similar experiences. But then a lot of the shows went into more of these theatrical things. where it was like, well, let's catch this person. Let's catch this thing on tape. Let's use the ghost radar gun or whatever. So it all became theatrical, where all of a sudden it went from helping us or possibly helping us to just being turned it into kind of a joke. And so we were kind of at wit's end. And Jennifer was a big fan of the Dead Files. And I started watching the Dead Files with her. And I thought, wow, okay, this show's a little bit different. They're not ghost chasing or ghost hunting or trying to figure stuff out. They're not trying to collect evidence. They're really putting some thought into this show. They're really trying to help people. So Jennifer was, these are the people that we need to get to help us. Because we had no clue on who to contact or any of these other teams. We were just really nervous about bringing in somebody. So we initially contacted the Dead Files television show through what we thought was a submittal website. And it turned out that was a fake submittal website, which kind of led to just a whole other nightmare and just really just caused complete chaos for us, really.
Before we get into the entire Dead Files thing, because I think that's going to be a big story here that we'll get into in hour number 2 with you, Lance. Did you have paranormal teams come into your home to try and figure this out, or were you uncomfortable with it because of all that contradiction that you were reading online?
We had a paranormal team come in. We only had one paranormal team come in. And that was a paranormal team that duped us to thinking that they told us that they were a part of the Dead Files. They were hired by the producers to do the preliminary work. So, because the television show didn't want to waste their time if there wasn't anything out here. So they would get the evidence, they would send it in to the producers, and they would make a decision. So naturally, we just thought, okay, well, I don't know how television shows work, so it makes sense. So they came in, they set everything up. Took them about 2.5 hours to wire the house up with cameras and microphones and recorders and everything. And about 2:30 in the morning, after a couple of things happened, they decided that the house wasn't safe and they left. They packed up and left.
So how did you guys feel when all of a sudden they just jumped up and left? Because this isn't the first time that I have heard of this type of situation. And in fact, it's something that we have debated ad nauseum with a number of paranormal teams, who have come on here to discuss the merits and the nightmares of the paranormal. I mean, you must have felt just used and abused by that.
Oh gosh, yes. That is the perfect way to put it. We felt used because how things they antagonized what was here by how they acted, by what they did. They were totally unprofessional. They didn't really respect anything that was happening in the house, and it was like they were poking a stick at a rabid dog. And eventually that dog is going to attack you. Well, that's what it did, but it attacked me personally. And that's when they realized it wasn't safe. And when they decided, well, it's not safe for us. Okay, we're packing up, we're leaving, we're out of here. Jennifer was pissed. She was just like, oh, no. You're not pissing this thing off and then leaving us here. So she made them do a cleansing of the house, and they just did a half-ass cleansing. They just kind of went through the motions and did whatever they thought was right. So everything that they did that night just made everything worse for us. And the fact that they misrepresented themselves and they were just out for a cheap thrill that one Friday night, it was awful. It was a terrible experience. And like I said, everything got worse from that point.
It's very rare that we get someone on this show with a personal experience who had no knowledge of the paranormal whatsoever. And when we get into the second hour, I'd like to continue on with this for a little bit here, because I know we have a lot of paranormal investigators who listen to this show. All right. And I think it's great for them to learn from you, Lance, about the experience that you had with a paranormal team that not only duped you in lying what they were all about, but also duped you because they were a thrill seeker. They weren't a true paranormal investigation team. So, we got to go to break in about a minute here, but what did you learn about the paranormal in regards to the way investigations are done or supposed to be done?
Well, I learned that if they're a true paranormal team, they're going to respect what's happening there. They're going to take it seriously. And these folks didn't. I got a very uneasy feeling just from them right off the bat. But not knowing anything about how these paranormal teams work, I didn't know any different. I didn't have anything to compare it to, I guess.
And on that note, that's a great place for us to stop. And we are going to hop out for our first break of the night here on Spaced Out Radio. Lance Eberhardt is our guest. He's talking about his family's personal hauntings with some very nasty spirits in the state of Missouri. We're going to get more into this story right after this. We're going to learn as well about the do's and don'ts of paranormal from someone who had to learn the hard way on how to find one of these teams. This is what we talk about nightly or weekly on this show, people. I mean, you guys get sick of us talking about it, but this is the real thing here. This is someone who needed the paranormal's help and got screwed around. We're going to find out how he learned to trust the paranormal right after this with more from Lance Eberhardt on Spaced Out Radio.
Hey, space travelers, it's Joe Roop, your host of Spaced Out Saturdays. Come join me as we explore the realms of the paranormal, the esoteric, and everything in between every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern. You know the truth is out there. Don't get caught sleepwalking. Come join Spaced Out Saturdays. That's every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, right here on SpacedOutRadio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at SpacedOutRadio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience. Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at SpacedOutRadio.com.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at SpacedOutRadio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at SpacedOutRadio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. at spacedoutradio.com. The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter the Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Four Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report. It's free, and we're here to help.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our Advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night and Sunday, while I am out in the snow trying to find my Zen and my Chi in the wilderness, the weekend crew comes on into SOR headquarters. Joe Roop with Spaced Out Saturdays, and on Sundays, it's Elizabeth Anglin with Cosmic Passport. Both shows get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key in Noonan, Georgia. We're live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Good to have you with us. We're also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell, has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. I'm tongue-tied over this one. It's scary to even look at. Otorhinolaryngological. I don't even know. Otorhinolaryngological. Otorhinolaryngological. There, that's about as good as I can get it. Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Damn it, Bill. That's just dangerous. Just absolutely dangerous. Anyhow, we're all over social media. We're on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. We're on Periscope. So all you got to do now is go log into Periscope. It's free. Just type in Spaced Out Radio in the search bar. You'll find us live right there. Our Instagram is Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club at $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. You can pick up a t-shirt, as I'm advertising it on Periscope right now. And we got great videos from Tim Doyle's UFO Seekers, Contact TV from Leslie Mitchell Clark. We can read up on the Encounter online as well. And don't forget, we do have a GoFundMe account going on right now. GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night, where we are trying to raise funds to build a brand new SOR studio so we can head over to terrestrial radio. Our guest tonight, Lance Eberhardt. Him and his family went through a nightmare of a ghost hunt and ghost hauntings on their 15-acre property in Missouri. And, Lance, I want to start off right off the bat, my friend, and ask you about how this changed you personally. Because when you start having experiences that nobody else is really having, especially to the extent that you did, how did you change? How did you morph into the person you are now, from being a non-believer to someone who is now a full-fledged believer in the supernatural?
You know, I get that question quite a bit, and I am a completely different person than I was when all this started. I've done a complete 180. I look at things a lot differently than what I would ever look at them before. I'm not as narrow-minded, especially from a religious standpoint, as what I've been in the past. And I'm more open to what people say is happening, what they're experiencing. And one of the things I always like to tell people when they question me on what happened, or they want to talk to me about what happened, they want to provide me some kind of explanation on what happened, I always say to them, I go, for us as human beings to be so arrogant and so naive, we are the only realm that is out. Absolutely ludicrous. So my whole thought process has changed on how I look at every single aspect of my life. I'm not as conformed to a religion as I am more spiritual and more open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What was the reaction of your friends and family when you started trying to explain to them what was going on during this experience. Did you get laughed at? Did people think you and Jennifer were probably having some sort of marital troubles and this is how you were explaining it? I mean, people have some amazing experiences if they've never gone through it before.
Yeah, absolutely. We got a whole mix of experiences. We had the one people that would say, are you guys having problems at home? Is Lance on some kind of drugs? Is he drinking? Is he on medication? Are you guys having marital problems? But then, you'd have the complete flip side. It was like people like, you know what? I believe you because I remember something like this happening a long time ago. My grandmother would say this type of things. But, we lost some friends because of it. Even to this day where they really won't talk to us. But the majority, we kept everything kind of closed in. And we would only discuss it with people that we trusted and people that would be open to believing us. Because if somebody doesn't believe you, it just makes the whole situation worse. It makes you even doubt and question yourself. And it also makes you kind of circle the wagons, which is the last thing you can do. I always want to tell people who are experiencing things, don't suffer in silence. That's just not going to help your situation at all. So we were very fortunate and very blessed to have a very tight group of people, and particularly some good friends of ours who we moved out of this house for a week and they just took us in for a week.
At what point did you think that you were losing your own mind personally? Because this is psychological trauma that you can't stop. This is psychological trauma that you have no control over. So you really probably had to question your own self and your own worth at this point.
I was questioning my mental health almost on a daily basis. That I just thought to myself, God, I keep hearing these voices. I cannot stop these voices. I keep feeling like somebody is standing behind me, like I'm making all this stuff up in my head. So I was really questioning my own sanity. And that was nearly on a daily basis.
No, I can totally see that. I can totally understand with where you're going through. Did you seek psychological help for this? I'm not saying you're crazy. Please don't take that as an insult, but I'm just wondering if you sought help from counseling to try and help get through this.
Yeah, we actually, I didn't go see a counselor or a psychologist. I went to like a medical doctor, and I was saying, well, all this stuff is happening to me. This is kind of what I believe is happening. And surprisingly, the doctor I went to was very open to it. So I was kind of like, because it was a very difficult conversation to have, because I thought this guy was just going to put me in a mental hospital for observation. But, he said, okay, well, maybe we got to approach this a little bit differently. So let's approach it, not only scientifically or medically, but let's also approach it spiritually as well. So he was able to prescribe some, especially some anti-inflammatory type medicines, which would alleviate a lot of my pain, because all of a sudden, every single day, I was in some kind of constant pain. All of a sudden, I went from being an extremely healthy individual to a person who was almost on certain days just completely incapacitated. I couldn't move because my body just hurt so bad. And that just added to the depression of it.
You mentioned that you lost some friends over this and that you were, getting stressed out. What were some of the comments that you were getting from people who you had to make tough decisions to leave them behind?
A lot of the comments centered around organized religion, and it kind of goes back to that narrow mindset where people have one belief system, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you know, you kind of have to think outside the box, and they just weren't willing to listen or to even accept that something else could be happening. So a lot of it centered around the organized religion. Like, you know, well, if you hear something, it's a demon. You know, the only person that's ever risen from the dead is Jesus. So, you know, when you die, you either go and just kind of, you know, torment people.
Right. We're starting to get some clicking on your Skype here. Is that on your end? Like, are you tapping something or something? Because we're starting to get our connection a little bit crossed here.
Okay, let me try something. How about that? Is that a little bit better?
Yeah, let's try that out. So, I understand the religious side of things because, you know, personally, I've had experiences with that. I have friends who have had experiences with that, you know, taking part in my ghost hunt that I run here voluntarily up at the local museum. And because they participated, one of them got fired from a couple of their jobs. You know, it was absolutely ridiculous the way that went down. It's, in my opinion, not very Christian-like. You know what I'm saying? But when you needed help, though, and you started to check out paranormal teams, I want to spend some time on this because I think it's important, Lance, like I said late in hour number 1, that you and your wife turned to the internet to try and find out how many paranormal teams did you contact before settling on that group that was the fake Dead Files?
You know, we contacted like 3 or 4, you know, through various social media sites or through their own website. None of them got back with us. Or one in particular, they wanted money. And I was just like, no, I'm not paying you to come out to my house, tell me that it's haunted, because I already know it's haunted. I want to know what it is so I can get rid of it. So, you know, the fake Dead Files, I guess, scout team, they were the ones that were like, okay, well, we want to come out. And they were really pushing us to come out.
And before we get more into how they screwed you over, all right, I want to just ask you about the whole point when you and the family sat down and said, we're going to bring in a paranormal team to see what these people are going to do. How did that decision happen? Was it a family decision, or did you do it with your wife? Just do it and come to that decision with your wife, or did you include the children in on that as well?
No, it was just a decision that Jennifer and I made. We knew that we had to do something. You know, we did talk to our oldest daughter about it because we wanted her there when the team was here because she had a lot of experiences. But the final decision was Jennifer's and mine. You know, we knew that we had to do something. And we felt that if we didn't do something, if we didn't bring somebody in that and figure out what this was and how to take care of this, you know, things were going to get a lot worse. So we were really willing to put ourselves out there, you know, to go on a national television show. You know, all of a sudden our very private life is all of a sudden going to be public. So it was I want to say it was a difficult decision, but it wasn't. It was a very easy decision because we were just to the point where we were just exhausted. So it was a decision that Jennifer and I made very quickly, and we didn't even hesitate.
After this experience with the fake Dead Files team, I can only assume how down in the dumps you guys must have felt and how let down because you were hoping for real professionals to come in to do the work that you were expecting to try and help clear the house from whatever it was in there. When they finally left and you pretty much kicked them out of your house, take me through the next few steps of what happened with you and Jennifer on a paranormal side.
For the first couple of days, the house was really calm. You could kind of sense that, okay, things are quieted down a little bit. But then all of a sudden, just kind of the floodgates opened. All of a sudden, lights, we could not keep a bulb in a light socket. They would just burn out constantly. We would constantly have to replace light bulbs. They would, in our bathroom, there's a vanity mirror, and it's got like 4 or 5 light bulbs on it. And just on their own, they would just unscrew and just fly into the hallway and crash into the wall. We could not keep a light bulb, burning for maybe 2-3 days tops. And I was going crazy. I was losing my mind. I just said, okay, fine. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go spend a lot of money on those really expensive light bulbs that are supposed to last 20 years. We'll see if you can burn that one out in 2 or 3 days. Well, that challenge was accepted, and I lost because, I spent, $500 on light bulbs, and within a week, all of them are just completely burned out. And, when I take them back to the store, and they were just like, well, that can't happen. That shouldn't happen. These shouldn't burn out. They should last 10, 15 years. So I was like, well, it didn't. So can I have my money back? I didn't say, well, what, the ghost drained it all out. So, and, then the screams. Oh my goodness. The lady would scream constantly, nearly on a daily basis. She didn't care what time of day it was. She didn't care if it was early in the morning. She didn't care if it was the middle of the day. She didn't care if it was late at night. And she didn't care who was here. She was going to scream. And there were actually several times when there were people at our house, and she would just scream. And it was horrifying. And there were a lot of people that would say, oh, you know what? I got to go. I got to get out of here. Because, all of a sudden, it's real.
That amazes me that you actually had people coming over, say, for dinner or for night, relatives or whatever, for an evening, for a glass of wine, and all of a sudden the activity starts. Like this spirit or entity, whatever it was, really didn't have any care in the world for who heard it or what, or what heard it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she didn't care. She was going to make her presence known one way or the other. There was a time where it was one Saturday afternoon, and Chloe, our 19-year-old daughter, she had several girls over. It was homecoming. They were all doing their hair. They were, doing makeup. And then as they're all sitting there doing their hair and makeup, just out of the blue, that crazy lady just screamed, like 2 or 3 real loud screams, like somebody was physically attacking her, that type of scream. And everyone just stopped in their tracks. And these teenage girls were like, what the hell was that? And that's kind of when things really started to get out in our town that, oh, their house is haunted.
And we're going to get to the public, very, very soon on this. I'm more wanting to take this back one quick step, if you don't mind, in regards to dealing with paranormal teams, because you guys, like I said, had the ultimate experience. You searched the internet for help. You thought you found help, but in reality, you were cheated. When before you decided to call up and get a hold of the real Dead Files television show, what options did you figure out that you had in order to deal with this problem, since the people who were supposed to help in this paranormal teams were really no help at all?
I think you mentioned earlier, yeah, we felt cheated. We felt, they screwed us over. And, after they left, it was just like we were just defeated. It was just like we felt like we were literally just going to have to live with this. And at that point, we just stopped. We stopped contacting people. We didn't want to have a dealing with another paranormal team at all. And, and especially what really upset us the most was when we contacted the team and say, hey, can you tell us what evidence? Are you going to present this? And they said, well, we didn't get any evidence. And we think all your issues are caused by all of you. And we're like, what? You're blaming us for our problems?
That's quite rude. Did you report them at all? I realize there's no paranormal headquarters or anything, but
Yeah.
but did you report them to the police? Did you check your house to make sure that they didn't rip you off in any sort of way, since they were already cheating, saying they were involved with the television show and they weren't?
Yeah, we did walk through the house. We made sure everything was here, and we had already put everything up that was of value to us. So everything was already hidden. And, and we did. We kind of like, well, we should sue him for fraud. We should, but, we actually even talked to a friend of ours who was a lawyer, and she was like saying, first of all, you're going to be dealing with a lot of logical people in the court system and a lot of judges. They are not going to believe you 100%. They're 100% not going to believe you. So and then there's no precedent to how do you prove what they did caused any further issues? To classify as fraud, you got to prove damage. And it was all just going to be civil anyway. So we just decided, just let it go, because we were just so tired and we were so exhausted and things were getting worse. And our one and only experience with a paranormal team just made things worse.
How did the situation get worse? How were they using techniques like provoking this spirit to come out, and then the spirit just started getting a little bit more rude with you guys, kind of an angry reaction? How did that work? How did that spirit get more angry after they left?
What had happened, and we found this out after the fact, and because this kind of goes back to how naive and how inexperienced we were with any of this, was when we were sitting in the basement. I was sitting in the basement with a couple of the investigators, and I remember this because something in my mind, my head said, this doesn't sound right. I don't think you should be saying this. You shouldn't be poking this thing with a stick. Because one of the investigators said, I command you to tell us your name and to show yourself. I command you to do that. And I'm just sitting there thinking, you know what? You probably shouldn't be commanding this thing to do anything. And it turned out to be, no, you're not supposed to command these things. The only time you're supposed to command them is when you command them to leave. You don't command them to appear. You don't command them to say anything. And right after she said that, I got slapped right on the back of my neck and just a gouge, like a cut, taken out of me because something scratched me on the back of the neck. So that's when things just completely got out of hand.
Was there any other physical contact between you and any other members of the family from this ghost?
Yeah, that same night, after I got scratched and I had this big gouge on the back of my neck, they were all excited that something happened, that there was a physical contact. Myself, I was freaked out. I was scared to death. And so I had gone back upstairs and where they had set up their little base camp in the garage, and they were talking me into it. They were just saying, hey, you know what? You're the catalyst. We really need to get you back down there. So I finally, after a while, after I calmed down, I said, okay, fine. I'll go back down to the basement. So I go back down to the basement, and as soon as I hit the basement floor, I do not feel well. I feel nauseated. I feel sick. My head is spinning, and I feel like I'm about to basically I'm about to vomit. And all of a sudden, I'm just hot. I am just like I'm overheated. And the medium that they had brought with them, she has her hand on my chest, and she's saying some kind of prayer. And I keep saying, I don't feel right. Something's not right here. Something's not right. And I'm almost to the point of panic. And then all of a sudden, I feel like I just pass out. And I wake up, and I just calmly walk out of the basement. But everybody around me in the basement is just freaking out. They are just going hysterical. But I calmly get up off of the floor, and I just walk back upstairs. And as soon as I hit the garage, Jennifer says, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. What's going on? Why is everybody all freaking out?" She goes, we were watching you on the monitor." And I said, "Yeah, so I think I just passed out. I think I'm fine. No worries." She goes, "No, you were physically picked up about a foot off the ground, straight up in the air, and thrown up against the wall." And I said, "Really?" She goes, "Yeah, we just watched it." And then they were all excited that they got that. And they even showed it to me on their little view screen on their camera. And I was just like, that's insane. I can't believe that. And at that point, I started to get really scared because I'm a pretty decent sized guy. I mean, it takes a lot to move me, without my consent. And for me just to be picked up off the ground and thrown up against the wall, I mean, that takes some effort. And so after they did that, the leader of the paranormal team, he went downstairs with a couple of other people, and that's when he radioed back up, and he goes, "This is not safe for us to be here. We're packing up, we're leaving." And that's when we just kind of lost it. We just said, "No, you're not pissing this thing off and leaving us here to deal with it."
So they never gave you any of the evidence, even with you being thrown against a wall?
They said they didn't get anything that was conclusive. And I found that just really, that pissed me off because I saw it. Jennifer saw it. They all saw it. But they just said, well, it wasn't conclusive. Oh, okay. So I just hovered up in the air about a foot and was thrown up against the wall, but that's not conclusive. And that's when they kind of got a little snippy with us saying, well, we feel that y'all are the causes of all your problems.
How quickly did it take you to throw them off your property?
Pretty quickly. As soon as they got done doing that cleansing, I had them leave. I go, "You guys are out of here." I mean, you just piss this thing off and, you get to leave. You get to go home. But we don't. This is our home. We have nowhere else to go.
How long was it before you and Jennifer decided to contact another paranormal team, or was it straight to pushing to try and get the team from the X-Files, or pardon me, not the X-Files, the Dead Files there?
Gosh, it was maybe almost another year because we were just so distraught and we felt defeated, actually. All of a sudden we became extremely untrusting of anybody who said that they were an expert or they could help us. It's just like, well, we trusted these one people before, and now all of a sudden, things are a lot worse for us. I mean, we have stuff flying through the air now. So daily screams, footsteps, things are getting violent. We don't need anybody else coming in here and screwing things up and making it worse for us because it's a thrill for you. So we were actually, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, please, you finish up.
So we were actually, kind of to that point where, we just shut down. We shut down mentally. We became more withdrawn, and it was finally after some other things happened where there was just too much activity to where it was almost getting impossible for us to be in the house, and we were afraid someone was going to get hurt. Jennifer decided that, all right, you know what? We're going to try to contact the Dead Files again. I just have a good feeling that these people can help us. And she actually found the right submittal website and submitted our story.
How quickly did it take for the Dead Files to get back to you and decide that this was a place they needed to go?
We submitted it. Gosh, it was like 3 days. We submitted our story, and they called us within 3 days. And we still didn't believe that we were talking to the actual show producers. So we actually, did our own little background check on everybody that we talked to find out if they really were who they were saying they were.
I have a question from Shar in one of our chat rooms here. She is asking, did you ever call a priest to come in?
We didn't call a priest. We went to our pastor. We're Lutheran, so we went to our pastor and we told him everything that was happening. We said, we really wanted you to come out. We want you to bless the house. We want you to, do whatever you can to get rid of this. And it was kind of goes back to that religious way of thinking. It's like, well, after you die, you either go to heaven or hell. You don't stick around. There's Jesus Christ rose from the dead and walked among the living, and he died for our sins. So, I would suggest that you go home and you pray and you read the Bible. So that was just kind of another thing, after the paranormal team, we go to the church for help, and the church wasn't any help.
You were just getting smacked around left, right, and center with no help at all. I feel sorry for you guys. I really do.
It was a very trying experience, and we were just to the point where the only people that were going to help us were ourselves, and we were just going to have to be persistent. And I'm surprised, looking back at it, I'm surprised that we were as persistent as we were.
When you finally got Amy Allen, Steve D. Chiavi to come on in and investigate, how long was that from the time the producers got a hold of you until they stopped by?
I would say we contacted them in the fall of 2015. We submitted our story in fall of 2015. They contacted us within a couple of days. We spent a lot of time talking to the producers, telling them everything that had happened. They said that they just got done filming a season. They weren't sure whether or not they were going to be renewed. So they weren't sure whether or not they were going to do our story. They were interested in our story, but they couldn't make a commitment that they were going to do it. And then after the show, after they finished filming the season, everybody just scattered. But I kept in contact with the producer, and I just said, we're still interested. We still have things happening. Please let us know. Please consider us if you do get renewed. And then finally, just one day out of the blue, I think it was early April of mid-April of 2016, they said, okay, we've been renewed. We want your show to be the very first show of the season. So we're going to be out, and you're going to be assigned a producer. That producer's coming out, and he's going to be out there next week, and we're going to start putting the film schedule together. So all of a sudden, it was kind of like, oh my gosh, yes, a light at the end of the tunnel. These people are actually going to help us. So, and everything just started moving fast and furious. But there was a lag time in between when they contacted us and said that they were interested to the actual things, the ball started rolling. So about a 6 months, 7 month gap.
Now, how long was it before the investigative crew came on board? Because in reality, you're not so much waiting for the cameras or for them to come and shoot. You want Steve DiChiavi here, and you want Amy Allen there.
Yeah, well, they had given us a schedule. The first person that came out was the producer, and he had given us a schedule of everything that was going to happen. And there were certain days that we could not be on the property, and which was not bad for us. We could go and stay somewhere. The problem is that we had to get all the animals off of the property too. So imagine moving all of the animals that were on our property somewhere else, which was a challenge. So, their schedule, they're very, gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Very organized, very detail oriented. What they say is going to happen is going to happen. And, I think, if I recall, after all the crew got there, a couple of people came out first and were taking still shots and everything. And then the main crew came out, the whole team. I think it may have been like 20 people, and they started filming. And the very first night that they were there was when Amy Allen did her walk. So her walk was the very first thing that was done. And then the next day was when Steve DiChiavi and the rest of the crew were there. And that's when they did all the interviews with us. And we had a conversation with Steve DiChiavi before he even came out. And it was just kind of a meet and greet and just kind of talking to us and us kind of, telling him this is a little bit basics of what has happened. They didn't want us to discuss a lot with him. They didn't want us to do anything that would, I guess, ruin the integrity of his investigation or the show.
That's actually quite surprising to hear that, to get that background information, because so many in the paranormal are so tired of television and producers faking evidence and setting things up, or staging things, I should say. To hear that they didn't want you to say anything because they want this to be a real investigation, that's a little bit of an eye-opener for me. I wouldn't expect that, and I'm sure many in the audience wouldn't either.
One of the things I can say about the show, we were never asked to say anything that wasn't true, that didn't happen, or we were never asked to embellish anything. We didn't have a script. When Steve did his interviews, it was like a little interview. It was like, he was conducting an investigation. So there was no script. We weren't asked to say anything specifically. They were trying to take our story, our whole story, and cram it into about 50 minutes. So there were some things they decided, okay, well, this doesn't go with the flow of the show, so we're not going to use that. But we were never asked to say anything that wasn't true, or anything. They didn't tell us, well, why don't you just embellish this, make it a little bit more theatrical. We were never asked to do any of that.
When Amy Allen did her walkthrough, were you allowed to be along with it, just kind of watching what she does in order to help calm yours and Jennifer's nerves?
No, we weren't. We had to leave the property entirely. So we couldn't even spend the night, come back to the house and spend the night. We were told that her walk was literally about 5 hours on our property.
When did you get to see what she picked up?
We didn't get to meet her or hear anything about her walk until the reveal at the very end of the show.
No kidding. And when you finally saw that, how accurate was she compared to what you were truly experiencing?
She was, gosh, I want to say she was at least maybe 95 to 98% accurate of everything that was going on.
Can you give some examples of where she was quite accurate?
With the woman, with the female, the crazy woman. She was dead on 100% accurate with her. There was an individual that I saw. We like I said, we have horses, and we had a horse that we had to put down, and I had the horse buried on our property. And I remember one night I'm sitting out on the deck and I'm looking and I see somebody standing, tall guy with a hat and a duster, our Western poncho. And I go out there, and then all he does is turn to me and say, "I'm just paying my respects." And then he walks off. Amy saw that exact person. And when they showed me the sketch of this individual, I said, I remember looking at Jennifer, and I remember banging on the picture, and I said, "That's the person I saw." It looked exactly like the person that I saw. She saw the same person. So she was 100% dead on accurate with that. And I didn't tell anybody. I told the producers that I saw somebody, but I didn't go into a lot of detail about what the person looked like, how tall the person was, the hat or anything like that. So she was 100% dead on with that. And, the screams and just the sicknesses that we felt, and where they couldn't find any medical reason for it. She was dead on with that.
So coming from the other side, then you meet with Steve DiSchiavi, and here he is going through his investigations. What was that like to have the former New York police officer in your home? Never mind that he's a television star, but to do that investigation, to make you, or to finally have someone ask you questions about what you're experiencing.
A lot of people have asked me, they said, "Well, were you intimidated by him?" And I'm like, no, I wasn't at all. I expect him. He's doing his job. He's doing an investigation. He's going to question everything that's happening. That's just how he is. And it didn't offend me. It didn't bother me. I was raised by a chief master sergeant. So, Steve DiSchiavi was a walk in the park for me. So, but it was kind of I guess, the best way to describe it was, he listened, and, he questioned, and, and he believed, and, not necessarily that he believed in what was happening from a paranormal standpoint, but he was genuinely concerned about what was happening to us. So I think he believed from that aspect, but it was very reassuring.
Right. So what kind of questions was Steve asking you guys? Because realistically, this is now the second team you've had into your house. You have the Real Dead Files television show. You're feeling like you can trust them because, they're on TV. So you're hoping that they have some sort of credibility, if I'm correct in saying that. Did you start to feel your nerves kind of relaxing a little bit because finally someone was there to believe you?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a tremendous relief. It was like, thank you. I mean, it was like, at the time it was like 7 years. So it was like a 7 or 8 year ordeal. Is finally, we're going to have some closure. We're going to be able to figure out what's going on. And, a lot of the questions that Steve asked was, well, tell me what's going on here. Tell me what happened here. Are you on any type of drugs? Are you on any type of medication? Is there any head injuries, anything like that? Are you telling me the truth? Those type of things, So, but, his was more of an inquisitive nature. He was trying to get down to the logical, all right, let me try to figure out what's going on here. When he asked about the history of the property, what we knew about the property. But it was like all of a sudden, it was such a relief. It was like, you're in one of these situations where you feel defeated and you feel like, the end of the world is coming, and now all of a sudden here comes the cavalry.
When Steve did his investigation, because he always does an outside investigation to learn about the property and the history and everything that kind of went on, what did he find out that you guys didn't know?
He found out one thing, which was really kind of disturbing, I guess, for us, is that, I mentioned earlier in the show that this was known as Little Dixie, which was this part of Missouri was very pro-Confederate. And there weren't Civil War battles here. There was more guerrilla warfare type here. And there was a Confederate guerrilla fighter named William Quantrell, and it was Quantrell's Raiders. And they were responsible for, just wreaking havoc on Union forces and anybody that was, an abolitionist. And they actually rode from the Missouri side to the town of Lawrence, Kansas, and just massacred every person of age, military age, every male of military age. They massacred them all. They killed them all. And there was one individual who was under William Quantrell. His name was Bloody Bill Anderson. And this guy was just an absolute psychopath. And he was a murderer. He was a psychotic murderer. And he was just, a terrible person. He was the definition of evil. And Jesse and Frank James kind of ran with this guy as well, and his name was Bloody Bill Anderson. So two of Bloody Bill Anderson's soldiers had ties to the property, and all three of them had ties to the property. There was there was a father and two sons, and two of the sons were killed in battles under Bloody Bill Anderson. So, all of a sudden here we are thinking that, we didn't know what was really going on. And now all of a sudden we figured out that, wow, we have ties to some kind of psychopathic murderer who led a death squad, basically. That was one of the things that we found out that was kind of disturbing. He also had he dug up a name of an individual, a female, who died on the property, but there was no death certificate for her at all. And the thinking was that she committed suicide or she had some kind of mental illness. But it turns out that person that Steve found was this crazy lady. So, a lot of stuff that we just didn't even think that they would find anything on it.
So when you heard from Steve about all this information that he gathered for you to find out, what's going through yours and Jennifer's mind at that time? Was it vindication, or was it the fact that now we're finally getting a path on how to solve this problem? Or were you still just as nervous?
We were still just as nervous. And actually, we were a little more nervous because now all of a sudden we realized that, oh my gosh, we have some ties or some connections to this land and to Bloody Bill Anderson. That can't be good. But now all of a sudden we have the intel. Now we can go on the offensive. So we kind of had mixed emotions. You know, we had this feeling like, okay, wow, now this all ties in together. Everything we experience now ties in together. So there's some, validation there. And then there's the fear of like, holy cow, these people are not very nice people that are on our property. And so there's that fear factor. And then there's the thing of the, okay, but now we know. So now we know what to do. So quite a mix of emotions.
Where were you guys during the television investigation then?
Well, when you say the television investigation, you mean Steve's?
Yeah. Well, I know you were with Steve, but when they were doing... Because eventually Steve and Amy come together to try and solve the problem and clear everything out. Where were you guys when that was happening?
We all four of us, my wife and I and Steve and Amy, we all sat down for the first time together during the reveal.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time that we had met Amy. That was the first time that Steve shared his information with us and with Amy, and the first time that Amy told us and Steve about her walk.
Mm-hmm.
And what's interesting about the reveal is on the show, it's only about 10 minutes. It's only 10 minutes of the show, but the reveal lasted 4 hours. It was emotionally exhausting. And when they filmed this reveal, they just let Amy go. They just let her talk. They don't stop filming. They don't interrupt her. We only stopped filming twice. And one time we stopped was when somebody said something funny and we all laughed. And the second time was when Jennifer had just a complete breakdown and we had to stop filming.
On that note, we are going to step out for our final break of the night here on Spaced Out Radio. Lance Eberhardt is our guest tonight as he is going over his haunted ghost story. Remember, if you're a paranormal team, be straight up with your clients. The Eberhardts had to take a very tough route in order to help themselves with their paranormal experiences. Always keep that at heart, and I'm sure this is a good lesson and a good show for any paranormal team out there who's wondering how an investigation should happen. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio, more of the Eberhardt Hauntings right after this break.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
There's stories, then there's the truth. Do any of us really trust the news anymore? This is Jamie Sexton, owner of Rebel Planet News. The third Thursday of every month, I appear on SpacedOutRadio.com to bring you the truth you deserve, without mainstream media lies or alternative media fear-mongering. We'll get to the heart of the story and deliver the truth you are seeking. So come join us here for the Rebel Planet at SpacedOutRadio.com.
We are lighting the void on Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio. Hey, this is Joe Roop, and I'm hanging out in SOR headquarters every Saturday night, bringing you the latest news when it comes to the weird and strange. Bigfoot, occult, UFOs, ghosts, and everything in between, I got you covered. You can tune in to SpacedOutRadio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Come travel into the void with us on Spaced Out Saturdays.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries, so tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter Online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
There's a lot of strange going on in this world, and we can help you find out what's going on with you. Paranormal, cryptids, UFOs in the sky, aliens in your bedroom tickling your toes. We have the investigators you need to find out the answers you deserve. All you have to do is head to spacedoutradio.com. Your information is 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. It's free, and we're here to help.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we will be having Joe Roop in here for Spaced Out Saturday nights. He gets going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time, as I leave SOR headquarters, put on my winter gear, head into the snowy mountains to find my Zen and my Chi. Then on Sunday, Elizabeth Anglin's Cosmic Passport is back. Once again, you can find both shows at spacedoutradio.com. We say hello to everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia. We're also live on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on the Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Otorhinolaryngological. Yeah, it's a tongue twister. Otorhinolaryngological. I'm not even trying it again. That's just going to piss me off. Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Periscope. We started broadcasting on Periscope live as of last night, and so far, it's been pretty fun. So we're going to continue this. So just go to Periscope, type in Spaced Out Radio. It'll show you our show effective immediately. We're on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. We're on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Go to our YouTube channel for our archives. All you got to do is go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're right there, so we would appreciate that. And, of course, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Rock out to some Bumblefoot. Shop at the Spaced Out Radio store. Pick up a t-shirt like this one I am wearing right now. I know you can't see it in Radioland, but if you're on Periscope, you can. And, of course, you can also watch great videos from UFO Seekers and Contact TV. Read up on my latest blog on The Encounter, our news section. So we ask that you check that out as well. We also have a GoFundMe account going on right now. Go to GoFundMe.com/We Own the Night. That's GoFundMe.com, We Own the Night. And you can donate, you can share that. We're past the halfway point. We're almost at the 2/3 point of our campaign. We could really use your help to help build a brand new studio so we can switch over to terrestrial radio very, very soon. Tonight we are talking with Lance Eberhardt. What a story it's been the last 2 hours. If you have missed it or you're just joining us so far, you're definitely going to want to check out hours 1 and 2 on our YouTube site, Spaced Out Radio. Lance, thank you so much for hopping on our show. It's been amazing that you would come on and share your personal experiences that you and your family have gone through at this time. I'm curious, before we get more into the Dead Files, if I'm correct, you moved from that property.
No, we actually still live here.
Oh, you're still there. What keeps you there? Why are you still there?
A lot of it is trying to find another place where we could live, where we could house all the animals. It's not a financial, decision. We could sell it and move, but the problem is finding a place, as convenient as what we have. When we did the show, and I remember right before we went into the reveal, because Amy will give you a recommendation on whether or not you should stay or you should leave, or what you should do if you do decide to stay. And if she would have said, you know what, it's not safe, you guys just need to leave. You need to move. You need to get out of here. We were prepared to leave that night. We were just going to pretty much leave everything behind and just start all over. But once we had a formula and we had a plan of attack on what we could do and had a better understanding and we were better educated, then we could stay in the house.
So let's get back then, and we'll tie this all together here in a few minutes when we get back. When you sat down for the 4 hours with Amy Allen and she's explaining everything to you, and I realize on TV there's only 10 minutes. They don't have 4 hours for a television show to go through that. You said it was quite emotional and that it was very, surreal on the way it went down. What did she start telling you that hit you the hardest?
The thing that hit us the hardest was the involvement of what the crazy lady was doing. That was the emotional side of it. Apparently, she had some kind of infatuation with me. And she was jealous of anybody who got my attention. And she hated the fact that I ignored her. And I had just gotten to the point where, I had learned to tune her out. So when I stopped listening and I stopped responding to her, she lashed out at everybody else. And particularly, she lashed out at Heidi. And so that was the most terrifying thing. She was slowly going to basically kill, all the other females in the house, in order to get to me. So, and I'm really going after the kids.
So she really didn't care that you were married or that your daughters were your daughters and not extra lovers.
I actually don't think that she had a concept. And when I say her, I mean the crazy lady. I don't think she had a concept of who was what. She just knew that these people and these women were getting my attention. So I don't think she had a clue on who they were, whether or not, they were, Jennifer was my wife and Heidi and Emmy and London and Chloe were my kids. I don't think she understood all that.
So how did Amy deal with the screaming lady?
She said that she needed to go. We had to figure out a way to get rid of her. And she gave us a formula on what we could do, and she kind of gave us an idea of why she was here. And Steve kind of tied in the loose ends on why she was here. So when she gave us that formula, and all of a sudden now we know who this person is. We know what's going on. So now we can go on the offensive and we can figure out a way to move this person on or get rid of them altogether.
Did it work?
Yes, it did. It took a while for us to, because one of the Amy said that we needed to get a median and a Reiki master to come in. And it took a while for us to find those individuals that were willing to come out to the house. We would contact these folks and we would say, hey, you know what? We need you to come out. This is what's happening at our house. Amy Allen told us to contact somebody like you. And it was really interesting is that before we said Amy's name, they were like, oh yeah, I'll be more than happy to come out, and I can see what I feel and everything. And then we tell them about Amy Allen and all of a sudden they go, oh, you know what? I don't think I'm the right person to come out. So what that kind of just told us was that, okay, you just validated that Amy knows what she's doing. Because now all of a sudden you're scared to come out to our place. So it took a while for us to find a Reiki master who was willing to come out. And the person that actually came out was somebody that Amy found for us.
Well, that's nice to know that she didn't drop the ball on you guys just for the television episode. That you were having troubles, you contacted her back and said, hey, I need some help here. Everybody keeps turning us down. You know, I think that's fantastic, because a lot of times you see these groups that when they're done proving or disproving a place is haunted, even though they already know it's haunted, they leave, and there's no other contact after that. So the fact that she actually took time to help you guys out, I think that warrants, you know, some merit for her.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just, you know, when they say on the show, they use the word clients. And that's exactly what we felt like. We felt like clients, you know, and everything that we were dealing with and everything that we were going through, we felt that they were very sincere, that they were there to actually help us. And they didn't just, you know, film the show, pack up, and then left. You know, they stayed in touch with us, and they asked us, okay, have you done what Amy asked you to do? Are you having any issues? You know, and when we would say, yeah, we're having an issue, we can't find anybody that wants to do this stuff. You know, so, and that's when Amy found the Reiki master for us.
Why did you think that so many people were afraid to deal with Amy Allen's recommendation?
I think it's a lot based on her reputation, that she, you know, all of a sudden, you know, these people that maybe, I guess, I hate to use the word pretenders, because maybe that's what they are, you know, all of a sudden now they think, oh my gosh, this has been validated by somebody who actually has abilities. Do I want to go and deal with that? You know, because now all of a sudden this stuff gets very real to them. And it gives us some validation, and it gives us some validity. So I think that they were actually just scared.
Well, I think the last thing they want, too, is to have you go back to her and say, you know, these people that we looked for, they were absolute con artists or something like that, and then it ruins the reputation again. You know what I'm saying? Lance, are you still there?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Do you think they were afraid of the fact that maybe they were a little concerned that dealing or stepping into a situation where Amy Allen and a television crew were, that it may have harmed their own reputation, or that they may be called out if they were fraudulent?
Yeah, I actually think that might have a lot to do with it, you know, because, you know, now all of a sudden they're going to have to come in after Amy. So all of a sudden now they are under the microscope.
How is the action now around your house? Is your property still haunted? Are you still being effective?
Yeah, we still have activity on our property, and we always will. It doesn't make a difference where we live, you know. So that was the other thing on why we decided to stay, because we're always going to have activity no matter where we live, no matter where we are. And we felt that, okay, we're better educated. Now we have an understanding, and we know what's going on our property. Now we know how to protect ourselves. So let's stay here. So, because if we would have packed up and moved somewhere else, not only do we have the issues with the animals and finding a place, but what if we go to a place that was actually worse than what we were leaving and what we could make better? So, you know, Amy told us during the reveal that the reason why you have so many issues is because every single one of you has some kind of ability. You're all sensitives. And so you're always going to have activity. You're always going to have people wanting to talk to you, you know, dead people wanting to talk to you. So you have to learn how to protect yourselves. You have to learn how to cleanse your house. You have to learn, you know, how to be more open-minded, and you have to learn how to identify things. So it's a long road, and we still have activity. You know, we have a little girl that runs around here. And so, we let her stay, but there's rules and conditions, just like what you gave this person on your property. There's rules. So, and one of the rules is you got to play nice. So, but now having a better understanding, and I guess the key to us is educating ourselves, understanding our ability, educating ourselves, and taking the appropriate action when it's necessary. And another key thing is listening to each other and not questioning each other, and whatever somebody says, well, this is happening, this is what I'm feeling, we all believe it and we all take action.
Do you find that you and your family now are more sensitive to the surroundings of the paranormal, almost getting in touch with your intuitive side?
Yeah, absolutely. We all are. Now that we have a better understanding, and we're learning how to control certain things. We're far from experts in it, and it's a ongoing and continuing process in learning how to do it. So, we're more in tune. We're more, I guess, spiritually connected, not only with what's happening out, in our home and outside of our home and on our property, but also what's happening with each other.
Do you know when things are going to happen now on your property? Have you been able to use this newfound intuition or feelings that you have to know when things are going to heat up or when things are going to remain calm for a while?
We haven't got to that point yet. I don't think that we're skilled enough yet to do that. So that's why we rely so much on each other. So when one person says, I'm seeing this, I'm feeling this, and it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel right, that's when, we believe each other. There's no more questioning each other. It's like, okay, if you're feeling that, then we need to do this. We need to smudge. We need to cleanse the house. We need to take action. So we're not to that point where, we can foresee things getting bad. But, we're now, we're more proactive, I guess, when it comes to our listening to each other.
So when you now have any type of paranormal activity, how do you react to it as a family? Do you go or do you accept it now that it's just part of the game of living there? Or do you investigate it yourself because curiosity, now that you know what's going on, will come into play as well?
We don't investigate it. We take it at face value. We take it that something has happened, and usually one of us knows what has happened. So, and now it's being more open and communicating with each other. And if one person says, yeah, I know, that's so-and-so. Okay. All right. So we don't, the last thing that we want to do is we don't want to do EVPs. We don't want to do seances. We don't want to call this person out. Once we kind of figure out what it is, we will probably have a conversation with them out loud, all together as a family, and say, you can stay, but these are the rules. Or if it's something else, we'll say, you need to leave. You cannot be here. You are not welcome here, and you need to leave. And we go through a once a month a smudging and a cleansing of the house. Just to kind of recharge everything and just kind of a fresh start for the month. So that's just become a part of our life now.
How long do you see yourself living on that property with everything that's gone on?
It's hard to say. I guess, only time will tell. eventually, the city will kind of start to surround us, and, we'll probably want to move out to somewhere else, kind of get farther away from the city. Because once you start living in this type of environment, you get comfortable and you get used to it. And then when things start to surround you, you're going to kind of start to feel crowded again. So, it's hard to say. As long as we can keep, as long as we can be proactive and, keep things in check, I don't see us leaving.
Is it a type of place where, even after your kids have grown up and moved on, that you and the wife could retire there? You enjoy it so much? Because let's face it, 15 acres of property, that's just beautiful.
Yeah, I can see us staying here, and we would just retire from here, but I'm sure our kids are, our two oldest kids, they live in Tennessee, in Nashville. One's about to graduate from college. The other one is going to be a junior next year. So, we have considered moving to Nashville just to be closer to them. But, we're a ways from that right now. We still have two other kids in school. We want them to finish, and there's no rush to move anywhere.
Would you consider bringing paranormal teams onto your property to investigate? Because I'm pretty sure you were probably hammered with requests after the Dead Files episode.
No, we wouldn't even consider bringing anybody in to investigate at all. Just because, we've worked so hard to I'm laughing because I'm reading what somebody says in your chat room about Nashville. We've worked so hard to get to where we are now. I don't want to bring any other paranormal team in here to do anything. We understand and we know how to protect ourselves, and I don't need anybody coming in and screwing it up.
And how many requests have you received, or how many requests do you receive on, say, a monthly basis from paranormal teams, wanting to come onto your property?
Oh my gosh. Right after the episode aired, we got a lot. And I would say probably right now we get 2 or 3 every month. I would hate to say that we would never consider it. If there was somebody that would want to come out and, we felt that they were, in it for the research and in it to better somebody else's lives, but we would really vent these people. It would not be, okay, yeah, sure. What's your name? Yeah, come on out. No, it would be like, what's your goal here? What do you want to accomplish? And what are you going to do with this information once you take it back? How are you going to use that to help people? And how are you going to use that to train other paranormal teams to do things legitimately and to be on the up and up? Because at the end of the day, it's all about helping people who are suffering like what we were.
It's good that you guys are keeping an open mind about that, but I fully agree it has to be the right team. You don't want it to turn into some sort of traveling fair where everybody and their dog comes in to try and play with the ghosts, but on the flip side, it's a good way to maybe make some income. Because I'm sure paranormal teams out there would probably want to pay to do that.
And that may be the case. They may want to pay to come out here. But to us, sharing our story is not about the money. It's the whole point of us sharing our story was to give strength and courage to somebody else who may be suffering the same thing. So maybe it would encourage them to get help and get the right help. So I'm sure that we could have we could have said to a couple of these paranormal teams that says, yeah, sure, $500, you can come out here and you can stay the weekend and do whatever the heck you want. You know, I'm sure that there would have been some that would have, you know, paid up that money because, you know, now maybe they can find something else new. But, you know, what if the wrong people show up? And if I do something for monetary gain, how am I any better than these people that came out here the first time and screwed us over?
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate chance you take when there is no real administration of the paranormal industry. It's very, very loosely controlled. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, even teams who buy into other teams' code of conduct, it doesn't mean that they're actually following it. So I actually agree with you there on that part, you know, but in the meantime, how have the animals reacted to the change of scenery since the Dead Files came on in?
They are a lot calmer. You know, my dog in particular, she is much more relaxed. She's not on edge the whole time. She doesn't feel that she has to constantly be with me now. So she can go and kind of do her own thing. But if something is happening, she can sense that. So she's kind of a part of our family as well. All the other animals, they're calmer, you know, but they can still sense that something is happening. But there's no more anxiety with them, no more nervousness with them. And especially, you know, the horses, they're calm. You know, a horse is a flight animal. So if it gets spooked by anything, it is out the door. I mean, it's out of there. So they're much more calm and relaxed as well. And that's very important for a 1,000-pound animal to be relaxed when you're around it.
I am very curious, and this has been asked in our chat room as well. A lot of people who have paranormal activity on their property, it doesn't just stop with them. They find that there's a lot of shadow beings around, which could be considered ghosts. They find that there's a lot of fairy activity, extraterrestrial activity, cryptid activity. Have you had any other sort of activity on your property that's unexplainable, or maybe more UFO sightings or something along those lines?
You know, we haven't had anything that we could conclusively say is something else. You know, we always kind of get this feeling that there is something else here, that they're not necessarily in the house, but on certain places on the property. And but it doesn't feel like it's paranormal. It feels more like it's observing. It's kind of it's a weird way to describe, but it feels like it's just kind of observing. Like it's something like it's watching an experiment or something. So it's really kind of hard to describe.
Oh, I think you're describing it perfectly from someone who's gone through it. But, you know, for those who have never had an experience, it is tougher to explain. It's almost like there's a heavy energy that you can tell the difference between what is paranormal and what is not. It's trying to figure out what that energy is that isn't on a ghostly matter, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I can kind of feel what's paranormal and what's different from that, because anything that's kind of paranormal is, I can kind of feel that person is lost, or they're kind of confused and they don't have a clear understanding of what's happening. They know what they're doing and they think they know what they're doing, but, you know, they have some kind of attachment to the property or to the individual or to, you know, the house or something like that. But this other thing is completely different. It's just kind of like it's here and it's just watching and it's kind of observing.
How is the community towards you guys living in a smaller community when the Dead Files episode came out to film and when it was aired?
When they came out to film, we were told, you know, specifically, we cannot talk. We cannot say that they're there. We cannot say what they're there for. We can't identify that it's us that they're investigating. But, just from them being the crew being in a small town, the local newspaper, they caught wind of it. And so they knew that the Dead Files was here, that they were filming. And it was really kind of interesting because the reporter was asking, who is this? Does anybody know who this is? I want to talk to this family. And in a small town, and I finally just called her and I said, look, it's us. So, but here's the deal. You cannot, please stop trying to call us out. Please try figuring out who we are. We will talk to you after the show airs, because we were told specifically we cannot talk to anybody until the show aired. So, I made that deal with her just to kind of, keep her from, churning the waters. Because the last thing I wanted was a whole bunch of people out here. So we made that deal with her. But, as far as after the show aired, I was really pleasantly surprised. The community was very supportive. There were a few individuals that said, oh, that's not real. But we dealt with that before, and that's not a big deal. And, we were just to that point where we were tired. We had to get some kind of relief. And there was almost a year, because they filmed the show in late May of 2016, and it aired in May of 2017. So there was a whole year that went by before it aired. So that's a long time to try to keep people at bay.
Oh, true enough. And when you make a commitment, you have to follow through on that commitment. But what were the neighbors and everybody saying once the show was aired?
There were a lot of people. I was really surprised. There were a lot of people that said, oh my gosh, I saw you on TV. I didn't even, we have one of our friends, she goes, I didn't even know that your place was haunted. So, and it was interesting because there was a lot more support from the community than I thought that we would get. There's a lot of people that would approach us and say, you know what, we support you. You guys went through something so traumatic. How are you doing now? Are things better? And not only just the support from the community, but also a support from a lot of the paranormal community from online. And, we got a lot of letters of, messages of encouragement, thanking us for coming out and talking to us. We got a lot of questions. So I was pleasantly surprised how everybody was accepting of us, not only within our community, but even outside of our community.
So you didn't feel any tension whatsoever, which it could have very well went the other way very easily.
Yeah, I was really surprised. We didn't feel a lot of tension. There were a few people that, just still, even probably to this day, choose not to believe. But I really don't care. I know what we were experiencing, and we made a conscious decision to do what we did, and I don't regret it even one bit.
Did anybody come down on you in the community for maybe what they would say embarrassing our tiny community because of this?
Actually, no, we didn't get any of that. We actually, I was actually at one point invited to speak at the Chamber of Commerce about it, but I felt that, okay, well, this is just for self-promotion for them, because there's been kind of an ongoing thing on whether or not we're going to continue to be this small farm town, or are we going to kind of start going to the big city? So, and there's already a little bit of tourism in this town. So I just kind of felt that they wanted to take advantage of it. So, but no one came down on us for, being here.
Do you have the tourists now doing the slow drive-bys past your house pointing and saying, "Oh, I think this is the one."
Yeah, you know what? We actually did right after the show aired. I think it had been about a month. I'm looking out the window and I can see this car, and it kind of stops in front of our drive. Now, our whole property is fenced, so you just can't drive into our driveway. But they stop at our front drive, and I kind of am looking at them, and then they drive a little bit farther down on our property, and then they stop in the road. They get out of their car, and they take a selfie of themselves with our house in the background.
What's that like to see that happen? Because not many people live on, pseudo-celebrity type properties now.
It only happened that one time that I'm aware of. So, it really didn't bother me. And I just kind of chalked it up, and even the producers of the Dead Files, they told us that stuff like this has happened. There's a lot of fans of the show. It could possibly happen at your place, so, it wouldn't be too hard to find out where you guys live. And so I'm just like, you know what? It is what it is. I don't care. We want help. So I can deal with that.
So in the end, I can even tell the difference from when you first started on this show tonight compared to now. You seem more relaxed. You seem more joyous. You could tell that this really did affect you, and it probably will affect you long term in your life. Do you ever worry about things going back to the craziness that it once was with the screaming lady around?
I worry about that every single day. I worry. I sometimes will wake up in the middle of the night with that fear, So, and a lot of the things that people think about when you are dealing with a haunting is that, okay, somebody comes in, the priest, splashes holy water around. He says, okay, everything is good, and then they leave. Well, it just doesn't end. It just doesn't start, and it just doesn't end. There's also a recovery period, because what we went through was incredibly traumatic, and it left a lot of emotional scars. So, there's recovery that's involved. And, we've been, I guess, living in a safe environment now for, almost 2 years, but we're still recovering from it. There's still things that are left behind. There's still some nights where the kids don't sleep well. There's still some nights that I don't sleep well. And there's that constant fear that something is going to come in here and start wreaking havoc again.
How do your kids react now? How are they doing with everything?
They are doing a lot better. They have a better understanding of how to protect themselves, and they also know that they can come and talk to us, and they're not going to be judged, and we're not going to say, oh, that doesn't happen. We're going to take everything at face value, and if it warrants us doing something, then we're going to do it. We're going to take care of it.
What was it like for them at school while this was going on after the episode? Because let's face it, even at the best of times, kids can be cruel to their peers.
I was really surprised, but it was actually they actually got a lot of support. There were some kids that kind of made fun of them and said, "Oh, no, it's not true." And we had talked to the girls about that, and about that was possibly going to happen. And so we kind of told them how to deal with it. And so they both have a very close group, knit group of friends. So, and those friends actually kind of looked out for them. And that's kind of what we told them to do. Just stick by the people who trust you. There's going to be people that aren't going to believe you. But you were here. You know what happened. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to debate them. You can come home, you can talk to us about it.
Was there a lot of all of a sudden new friends because they were, or their family was on TV?
Yeah. That's going to happen with kids. So there was a lot of curiosities, about our place, and the Halloween that we just went through was the first Halloween after the show had aired, and we got a lot of calls of people that wanted to have Halloween parties here, and we're just like, no, we're not doing Halloween parties. This is not a tourist attraction. This is where we live. So, so they did gain a lot of friends from it. So, but after a period of time, the girls gravitated back to their old friends who were their friends before any of this happened.
What's the biggest learning lesson that you told your children, especially the ones who are still at home right now, through this entire episode of what's gone on?
The biggest learning lesson is to, actually believe and accept and listen. I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned, is to be more open and to communicate better. And when one of my girls comes to me and says, this is happening, don't shrug it off and say, oh, your imagination. So, I lead by example. So, because I know if I go to them and I say, this is happening, I want them to be able to open up. So I guess the biggest lesson for them and for all of us is being more open and being more engaged with each other, especially as a family, because, it kind of comes back to that old saying is, the group is stronger than the individual. So if we all group together and we're all in sync, then that's going to be where our strength lies.
Did this whole episode bring the family closer together?
In the end, yes. But it almost completely tore us apart as well.
Where are you in that stages now?
We are much more in tune with each other, and we're much more relaxed, and we're kind of getting back into that, where we're excited. And we now do more things together. So, we're getting back to how we were before all this happened. But it's just like what I said earlier. It's just that you don't get rid of the things and the entities that are here, and then life goes back to normal. No, it doesn't work that way. You have to recover, and recovery comes from supporting each other. So we're slowly getting back to where we were. We're a lot better than we were last year, and we're a heck of a lot better than we were a couple of years ago. So I think every day we get a little stronger, and we come together a little bit more.
We only have about 4 minutes left with you tonight, Lance, and I want to say absolutely thank you for taking the time to share your incredibly believable story here on Spaced Out Radio. That's one thing we love to do, is we love to bring people who are having real experiences on this show, and the ones that are credible, such as yourself, are far and few between, I strongly believe. In the end, looking, say, towards the next 5 years or so, where do you see yourself in regards to living with a haunted property? Is it something that you just take day by day now that it's calmed down, or is it something where eventually, once you're over the hangover of everything that happened, that maybe you may step into the paranormal realm yourself to investigate a little bit more for your own curiosity?
I don't see myself investigating more out of my own curiosity. I think where I see myself in 5 years from now is, getting over that hangover part that you mentioned, but, just becoming more connected, by becoming more connected with what's my surrounding, have a better understanding of what abilities I have, and just to kind of find peace and, just kind of connect with things in a different way. That's what I want to get better at, to connecting at things in a little bit better way. So I don't ever see myself becoming any type of paranormal investigator. I see myself maybe helping people and talking to people and, maybe, sharing our experiences and maybe talking to them about what we did, because I don't think I'll ever be qualified to really go in and say, this is what you need to do and this is what I found. But I think that sharing the story and talking to them, and I become more centered and I become more grounded and I become more spiritual around me, I think I'll be able to help people with that aspect of it, especially the recovery process.
Have you already had people reach out to you for help?
Yeah, actually, we do. I get a lot of messages of people just, saying, well, this is what I'm experiencing. And, I don't feel like I'm qualified to give advice. So I always try to refer them to things that helped us. So, so I get a lot of that. And I think a lot of it is just that people just, they want to share their story with somebody, or they want to talk about what's happening to them because it happened to us. So in a roundabout way, I think hopefully that it gives them the courage. And I always try to encourage people is like, don't suffer in silence. Don't worry about being judged or ridiculed. Find help. There's people out there that will help you. You just have to find them.
Lance, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Quickly, give the address to your blog where people can go on there, watch the episode, and learn more about what you are doing.
Sure. It's the blog address is ourghoststory.blogspot.com, and you can find a link to our episode, and you can read about all of our experiences. That's one reason why we started the blog, because we were getting a lot of questions. And also it's a form of therapy. So for myself and for the family, and hopefully it gives some people some encouragement. So it's ourghoststory.blogspot.com.
Thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight, Lance. Really appreciate it. We were hoping to hear from Jennifer, but it probably got late and she wanted to go to bed. But you taking the time to share your personal experiences with us, I think my audience really appreciates you explaining it to us. And I just want to say a big thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed our time, and it's always nice to share our story.
Wonderful. Lance Eberhardt, Thought of the Dave, coming up next. Happens every single night here on the mighty SOR, where I pen a question onto my Facebook page, and then you get to respond and tell me what you think is going on, what you think happens. I want to know your experiences, your stories. It's a good way to get us communicating once again through the show, and I get to also bring you guys in on it as well. So, the Thought of the Dave question today was, have you ever lived in a haunted house with a negative spirit? If so, tell me your experience. Now, after hearing what Lance Eberhardt went through for the last few years, and finally getting some help for his family through the television show The Dead Files, you honestly have to think that they were lucky, especially when they had a nightmarish experience, no pun intended, with the paranormal teams that they were trying to get out there to investigate, find answers. And I know you've heard me gripe about this so many times on Spaced Out Radio when we've talked paranormal, and usually it's around, with Eric Cooper's group from Forest Moon Paranormal. All right? This is a prime example of why we have to continually out these people for the crap job that they are doing, because they don't realize how much it actually affects the people that they are investigating for. It's selfish and it's rude, but that's for another conversation. I want to get to your stories. Have you ever lived in a haunted house with a negative spirit? On Twitter, Raven said, when I was a child, we lived in a house on Staten Island, New York. My parents bought it from an older couple. It was a handyman special, and they had spent time renovating and upgrading. This was the early 50s when my older brother was still small. I was born in 63, my sister in 64. When I was about 9 months old, Mom used to say that she and my father would wake up to hearing me laughing or cooing in my crib, and I would get up to go check on me. Their room was across from mine, and Mom said that each time they would go in there to check, they thought they could see a woman standing near the crib. Now, they brush it off as an imaginary thing for a while, but then over the next few years, odd and inexplicable things started happening to all of them. Her oldest brother was chased out of the attic one day by what he described as a crazy woman. Her dad started acting strangely and violent. Both her brothers started sleepwalking and would always end up in the den near the basement door. It was the same spot that in front of several family members, one of my brothers was scratched by something that left 3 fresh claw marks. Arguments between my mom and dad escalated to the point that my mom filed for divorce and dad moved out. One of my mom's cousins came to stay with us. He started to also notice knocking sounds, lights flickering, footsteps, cold spots. A favorite toy of mine disappeared, basically right in front of me when it landed inside my mom's walk-in closet. I saw movement in the closet that looked like a large black mass moving slowly along the floor. A family and friend who was visiting encountered something in our upstairs hallway that he described as cold and hairy, almost knocking him down the hall. I mean, these are real stories that people are having. Let's go over to Zion's story. I mean, that one just puts chills down my spine. Like, that's freaky. I lived in an apartment right in front of an abandoned hospital. The hospital windows faced our balcony, and one of the bedrooms, so it was scary to look out at the hospital windows at night because we got the impression something was looking at us. We had a negative spirit in the territory of the apartment location, not the hospital itself, and the way I found out about it was through a dream. In that dream, I saw a ghost at one of the hospital windows. It was a man. He presented himself to me and said he died in 1918, but that he was originally from the UK. He asked me if I wanted to know what happened in my apartment's territory, to which I agreed to. I was shown that the spirit in our apartment had committed suicide by jumping off a building that was previously there decades ago and did not want us living there, which explained why my mother wanted to commit suicide at one point by attempting to stab my aunt. Weird. Let's move on. Let's get to Heather's story. Let's see here. She says she appreciates the help from all the paranormal field that has helped with the negative entities on her property. Needless to say, she has learned very much in the last 2 years. And that is the big thing, guys. We need to remember that people are having these experiences. It's easy to jump on their back, but it's also maybe a good idea to take them seriously. Daryl, I apologize I didn't get to your story. I did want to get to that one. I just checked the clock and I ran out of time. I'm going to save that one, though, because eventually we'll have another paranormal question. So remind me of that. We want to say thank you to Lance Eberhardt for being on the show for 3 hours tonight, telling us all about the paranormal experiences on his 15-acre ranch in Missouri. Glad to hear he is doing better. Listen to this episode again. If you are someone who is in a paranormal team, this is a good call for all of you to figure out how to and not to investigate someone's private residence. Tomorrow night and Sunday, the weekend crew comes into SOR headquarters. Joe Roop. Tomorrow night, the dulcet tones of Mr. Joe. Spaced Out Saturdays, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. Then at the same time on Sunday, Elizabeth Anglin is back with Cosmic Passport. I'm back in the chair on Monday with Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know what we're talking about. Disclosure, right? Of course! Now, I want to say thank you to everyone listening in and for donating. Devin, thank you for your latest donation at www.gofundme.com/We Own the Night, helping us get to that point where we need a new studio so we could go terrestrial. Remember, gofundme.com/We Own the Night. Want to say thank you to everybody on Periscope for accepting me on there. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. Everyone on Twitter, in Spreaker, and the veteran crew in the SOR Space Travelers Club on Facebook. We're going to do it all again on Monday. Thank you for sharing the shows, showing the hearts on Periscope, the love of the snark in Twitter. I love it. Can't wait to see it again on Monday because together, my friends, we own the night. I'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great weekend. I'm out. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a good one. See you later, everyone.